That's Laura Westbrook reporting for the SABC on the death of Ambassador to France, Nathi Mthethwa, who's died at the age of 58. His body found after he'd fallen, according to reports, from the 22nd floor of a hotel in Paris. Let's get the view now of one of his former cabinet colleagues, ANC NEC member Dr. Malusi Gigaba. Good to have you on the program, sir. And I'd imagine, as the rest of the ANC and other comrades are, you too would have been shocked at the news today. But without putting words in your mouth, speak to us about your relationship with the now late ambassador and how you are digesting what's happened.
Good evening, Tembegile. Good evening to the viewers at home. We are still shocked and in disbelief about what has befallen the late Comrade Nathi. He was a very close friend of mine. We grew up together in the ANC Youth League in KZN. We served together in the structures of the ANC Youth League in Southern Natal, where he was our leader and subsequently was elected into the NEC of the ANC Youth League, in which he served with distinction until his elevation to the NEC of the ANC itself. So you are talking here about someone who has a distinguished career as a political activist and as a public servant, who was unassuming, very humble, committed, hardworking, very intellectual, and someone whose credentials in the struggle can never be doubted. But Nathi was committed to serving the people of South Africa, and he worked very hard to ensure that in all the positions in which he served, he did so with humility and with devotion at each time, never complaining about which assignment he was given. So we are really saddened by his loss, and it's a tragic loss to the nation and a tragic loss to the movement as a whole.
And our condolences to you as a longtime friend, and as you say, someone who rose and grew up with him in the structures of the ANC. We knew him, or most of us at least, from the official roles in cabinet as a member of the ANC, NEC, and now in his last official role as ambassador to France. But away from the officialdom and those sort of tasks, if you were to describe the now late Nathi Mthethwa, who and what would you say he was?
He was, beyond the officialdom, a committed revolutionary, someone who was passionate about the struggle of the people of Western Sahara and Palestine, who was committed to issues of African renaissance and the development of our continent. But during his young age, he was a very keen soccer player, whom we nicknamed Jasmine, a left-footed soccer player who also loved singing. So he was someone who lived a full life, loved a good sense of humor, and loved his family. So he was someone who also loved reading, loved debates, was fearless in debates. We will remember him during the difficult days in the ANC, leading up to the Polokwane conference in 2007, how brave he was in articulating the views that he held dear. And really, he was somebody that was truly affable and lovely to be around, because you would be engaged in as much debate as you would be engaged in laughter.
And tonight, as we try to make sense of what's happened, Dr. Gigaba, there's very little that's been made public about the circumstances. One of the things that we're hearing being reported by the likes of the French media is that the ambassador had been missing for at least a day, and there's some reporting that his last cell phone signal that was picked up was yesterday on Monday. You say you were a close friend. When did you get the first sense that something had gone wrong and that he was, as has now been characterized, missing?
I last had a direct conversation with him in July, after my graduation in July, where he congratulated me and sent me his felicitations. But the news, or the rumors of his passing on began surfacing today. And it at first, you know, like many people, when somebody close to you is rumored to have passed on, we did not believe the news that were coming out until the confirmation by the presidency, which then sent us into a tailspin, because we cannot for our lives imagine Comrade Nathi late, silent, still, and without a voice. He was larger than life. And the circumstances of his death, we hope, are going to come out in full, so that we understand what really happened. And like everyone who is in shock, we refuse to believe the news that we have heard and hope that the truth will come out. I feel even more so for his wife, with whom they were very close and spent a lot of time together. I was his best man at their wedding. And so I know how close and in love they were and still are. I feel sorry for his family. I hope that they are comforted at this stage, even though the news are still fresh. Therefore, the wound is still gaping and painful.
Am I right to assume that you've not been in touch with his now widow?
I have not yet. You know, it's difficult to do so when shocking news like this have just happened. And I think it's necessary that we allow the family to be in communication with one another without us intruding, until such a time that we believe they have processed the news and we can now begin talking to them.
And it's not every day that we learn of a South African ambassador who is found dead at a hotel. French media saying he's believed to have fallen from the 22nd floor of a Paris hotel. We don't know whether that's true or how it would have happened. But do the circumstances, based on what we know now, strike you as strange or even worse, suspicious?
You know, it's necessary at this stage that we keep level heads and not jump into any conclusions or begin having suspicions about what happened. It's the police and the authorities will have to conduct a proper inquest and give us a proper report so that we understand what happened. This is not an ordinary person we are talking about. We are talking about an ambassador, a country's diplomat, who was representing the President of the Republic of South Africa in France. And so we expect that no stone will be left unturned to uncover the circumstances of his death, so that we have a full and proper report of what actually happened.
Let me get your thoughts lastly then on what I would imagine is going to be an awkward conversation for many people over the coming days, because at the Matlanga Commission of Inquiry, his name came up in the last 2 weeks, brought up by the KZN Police Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. I'm not going to ask you to pronounce on whether he was guilty or innocent of the allegation that he basically tried to get rid of the case against the former crime intelligence boss, Richard Mdluli. But at this stage, do you worry that this will remain then as a blemish on his record posthumously? Because unfortunately, he's not going to be here to defend himself.
We do hope that regardless of his passing on, we will still get to know the full truth about what happened, even though we won't be able to hear his own testimony defending himself. Obviously, in every commission, the commissions are not courts of law. Any allegations still has to be tested. And his side of the story will unfortunately be missing through his own voice. But we hope that the truth will come out, which will exonerate him.
Dr. Malusi Gigaba, close friend of the now late ambassador of the country to France, Nathi Mthethwa, speaking to us this evening on the death of the ambassador in France and the circumstances that are yet to be explained, at least through an official record. The South African government, in its statement tonight, only saying that the circumstances of Mthethwa's death in France are under investigation, being investigated by French authorities. But as we're saying, those reports that we first read were that he'd been reported missing initially, and then his body was found earlier today lying below a hotel in France where he's believed, or he's said to have fallen from the 22nd floor.